Okay, so I won't pretend I speak Spanish. I will switch to English. Hi there. So my name is Mihai Corlan, and as Monsieur Chez said, I'm going to talk about some things that I think are more interesting to developers. And the first one will be code inspect. But before that, I want to encourage you to use the hashtag #CreateTheWeb, because Michael Chez and we are monitoring the tweets. And if you have questions, we'll be answering them. Also, the product managers of the products we showed you today and some of the engineers who are working on those products are also watching the stream. So you can get very fast answers from us and from other people from Adobe. Okay. So first one, Edge Inspect. I'm curious, who here actually builds mobile websites or mobile web applications? Can you raise your hand? Couple of you. Okay. So this tool is exactly for you, but also for the others, because probably next year you'll have to do this kind of stuff. Everybody wants a mobile experience these days on the web. So before demoing the tool itself, I want to show you what's the problem that Inspect resolves. So when you start working on a mobile website or mobile web application, obviously you are going to use your desktop computer most of the time, right? You are going to use your favorite text editor, your favorite browser, write the code, refresh the browser and see what's happening. But because you are also targeting the mobile, at some point you'll have to actually try the code, test the code on mobile devices, right? And this is where everything starts to be painful. Why? So I've been talking to people who are working in web agencies and they have lots of mobile projects. And for some of them, for example, when they work on a mobile project, they have like 10, 15 different mobile devices in their lab to test that project, okay? So imagine that you just change something in your HTML code or CSS code, and then guess what? It works on your computer, right? But you have to make sure that it will look as it's supposed to be on the mobile devices. So what do? You switch to your mobile devices and you'll have to enter using a tiny keyboard like a very ugly URL. Also, if you are using probably like a local host server, right? The local host URL won't be resolved on the mobile devices, so you'll have to hook all devices to the same Wi-Fi and use the IP address of your computer and so forth. Also, at some point in time, you might want to take screenshots of the web page or web application that it's running on iPad or maybe on an iOS, and you want to take a screenshot. Maybe you need to do this just to write the technical documentation that will go with the project to the client, or maybe you are working on the design itself and you want to go back and forth with your client or with the designers if you are a developer and so forth. So you have to take a screenshot. How do you take a screenshot on a mobile device? And how do you get that screenshot on your computer? Anyone knows? It's not very easy, right? Most of the time, probably you take the screenshot, pressing some buttons on your mobile device, and then you email yourself that screenshot from the device, and then you open your email client on your computer. So not that straightforward. Finally, what if you have like a problem with your code only when running on the mobile device, right? You'd love to have some sort of a web developer tools that run on your computer, but that are hooked to the mobile device browser itself. So you have access to JavaScript console, you have a way to inspect the generated code and play with the CSS properties. So guess what? To all these questions, Code Inspect is the answer. Isn't it awesome? Huh? Not sure? Okay, let's go eat. No, there's no way to escape. I'll be talking hours and hours. I'm so excited. Right. You can see here in my webcam my iPad and my Android phone. And over here, you can see my Google Chrome browser. So the way Edge Inspect works, it's very simple. You have to install the application on your computer and also to install a Chrome plugin. So you have to use Google Chrome for that. And then you have to install the Inspect application on your mobile devices. And once you've done this, all you have to do is to hook up your devices, iPad, iPhones, Android devices, and your computer to the same Wi-Fi and connect them. And once they are connected, watch what is happening when I change the URL here. C'est magique, isn't it? So if I go then to my local server, so here you can see it's a local host URL, right? You can see that it changed, right? Automatically. I don't have to do anything. Let's load an application here. This is, by the way, a single page app. It uses the hashtag in order to change the application state. And it still works, as you can see. Also, let's suppose that I want to take a screenshot for this page. What do I have to do? To email myself? No, 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 no. I press on the inspect icon here, and I can see, by the way, all my connected devices. I have my iPad and my Nexus phone. And I can press this little button over here. And this will take... I think the battery is dying on the mic. This will take screenshots on the devices, and if I press this button, it will open up the folder where the screenshots were saved. So I can see the screenshot on the iPad. Also, I can get some context about the iPad itself. So there is also automatically a code inspect creates a text file that will save information like, okay, that screenshot was taken from this URL, and the page size bytes was this, and the operating system was an iOS, and the version was 6.0, the device model, resolution, pixel density, and so forth. So everything it's created automatically, and it's easy for you to understand what happened with these screenshots, where they are coming from, okay? There is another use case that you might encounter while developing on mobile devices. Sometimes you change your code on your computer, and you are not sure that the code loaded on your iPad, for example, it's the latest, or it's maybe something from the cache, right? Maybe the mobile browser cached the JavaScript file or the CSS file. In this instance, you can also use inspect, and you are going to press this button, and you'll force to refresh and clean the cache on all the connected devices, okay? So this is it pretty much, inspect. Questions? Nope? Don't you want to know how much is it? Dineros, huh? Okay, so I have a great news for you. There is a free version as well. So as long as you connect only one device at the same time, so you have only the iPad connected, for example, and then you disconnect the iPad and connect your Android phone, it is free. And you have all the features. You can take screenshots, you can refresh, you can do the synchronized browsing, and so forth. If you want more than one device, and you can literally have like 40 different devices connected at the same time. We've done this experiment, and it works. Then you have to pay. And it's also part of the Creative Cloud, so you can get it very cheap. There was one more thing I wanted to show you, actually. So the remote web inspector tools. So I just chose to to open a remote web inspector session for my iPad. And I will select the iPad. And I can see, for example, as you can see, as I move through the elements on the page, you can see how they are highlighted, right? But again, what you see on my desktop it's actually connected to the browser that it's running on my iPad. And also I have the JavaScript console, so I can do something like alert. Hola. Are you still with me? And you can see here the JavaScript was executed. Okay? Okay, let's move on to the next topic. Who here knows what PhoneGap is? Couple of you. Who here knows what Cordova, Apache Cordova is? Couple of you. And who here created the PhoneGap application? Okay, thank you so much for your answer. So I guess for the rest of you, it will be quite interesting, this session. So far, we've been talking about tools and services that help you to create websites and web applications that are running inside the browser, right? PhoneGap, it's an open source framework that enables you to use HTML, JavaScript, and CSS to create applications that will be distributed as native apps through the application stores on all sorts of mobile devices, iOS devices, Windows mobile, Android devices, Blackberries, and so forth. So this is in a nutshell, if you want a description of what PhoneGap is and what can help you to achieve. Now, when it comes to mobile development, there are about 3 different methods to create something like a mobile app. You can use the web, of course, and you are going to create a web app that will run inside of a browser, which is for many use cases just great. This is all you need, maybe. But as soon as you want to reach out to some of the device APIs, like from your web app, to be able maybe to send a notification or maybe send a message to some of the contacts that you have on your phone, then you start having problems, because from the browser you cannot reach onto these capabilities. There is no way, it's not possible. And probably this is the reason for trying to build maybe that mobile application using the native way, right? Using Objective-C on an iOS, Java, Android, SDK for Android, and so forth. But there is a third way. Instead of using native, you can use the PhoneGap and create a hybrid app. And in a nutshell, a hybrid app is going to use the browser that it's available on the device in order to render the UI, the user interface of your application. And probably most of the business logic of that app will be created also using JavaScript. But it also has a part that it's native. And that part that it's native enables the JavaScript that you are going to write to use the native capabilities available on that mobile device. Now, the big question is, why would you use PhoneGap? Obviously, if you are a web developer and web designer, and maybe you either don't have enough time to study Objective-C, or maybe it's, I don't know, it's your first try of building something for a mobile device, PhoneGap is there for you. You'll be able to reuse your skills, and also it will help you to, at least in theory, although in many cases it is true, it will enable you to write once the code and run that code on 6, 7 different platforms if this is what you want. And the point to remember from this slide is that in the end, what you get, it's a native installer. An IPA file, an APK file in the case of Android, and you can take that file to the application stores, iTunes or Android Market, and be able to sell it or do whatever you want. As I said, if you are already familiar with CSS and HTML, then this is the way to go probably for many mobile applications. Also, in some cases, as I said at the beginning, maybe you already have a web application that it's quite good for your needs or for your client's needs, but it misses that extra feature, like using the notifications, or maybe being able to send something to a contact from the address book, like to share it with somebody and so forth. And for that reason, you can actually take the existing mobile app, package using PhoneGap, add the extra JavaScript code you need to write in order to use those native features, and you are good to go. Who's working on PhoneGap and Apache Cordova? Obviously Adobe. We bought the Canadian company that started the PhoneGap project last year. And once we bought the company, we donated the code to Apache Foundation. And this is where Apache Cordova is coming. It's the name of the open source project that it's hosted on Apache Foundation. We are not the only one, or we are not the only big company who spends time and money having engineers working on PhoneGap and Cordova. IBM is also working. Microsoft was helping us to make sure that it will run great on Windows mobile phones, RIM as well. So there are many other big companies who are working on Cordova. In terms of platforms, probably it's the only open source project that actually supports 7 different platforms, and you can see on my slide. So, of course, from starting with iOS and Android, all sorts of different versions of BlackBerry, Microsoft mobile phone, Bada, Symbian. Well, I think Tizen, it's not here, but we are supporting Tizen as well from Intel. And by the way, in this table, on the vertical axis, you have the native capabilities that are supported out of the box. So out of the box, if you start using PhoneGap, you'll be able to use the accelerometer, the camera, compass, contacts, the file API, and so forth. But if you need something more, maybe there is some other native capability available on iOS, for example, but it's not supported out of the box. The good news is that you can create a plugin and expose, by writing some native code, you can expose that new functionality to the JavaScript code. And in practice, you'll find, I will have like a slide at the end of my session with a bunch of resources. There is a GitHub repository that aggregates lots of plugins created by the community. And you'll find plugins for all sorts of things, like in-app payment or purchasing and things like this. Right, who's using PhoneGap? So there are many people who are using PhoneGap, like small companies, freelancers. I have cousins who are using PhoneGap, but probably it wouldn't make much value to you, this statement, right? So instead of that, I said, okay, let's pick just 3 big names. So you have here Salesforce, IBM, and SAP. Big names in the enterprise world are using PhoneGap, actually. Some numbers. September last year, from all the applications available on iTunes stores, 4%, this is a lot, were actually built using PhoneGap. And trust me, this is a lot because we are talking about hundreds of thousands of apps, and 4% of those were actually created using PhoneGap. And also, we've been seeing lately a lot of interest from developers all over the world in terms of downloads of the PhoneGap SDK. So lately, there are like roughly 100,000 downloads each month. And we are seeing more and more interest from all over the world, like from China, from Brazil, and so forth. So the first one, it's, let's see if you guess, Wikipedia. And I can, Wikipedia, right? I can search for something, read that thing, and off I go. So let's see, I'm in Madrid, right? What is the local football team? I'm not sure. I think I heard of it. So I can do something like, okay, Real Madrid, and read, right? I can bookmark this resource, and so forth. What is interesting in this case is that Wikipedia actually used to have like a native app built using Objective-C, And at the beginning of the year, I think they switched to a PhoneGap app. And I think in their case was maybe the reason, I'm not sure, I didn't ask them. I think the reason was they already had like a great website, right, with lots of services. You can expect they have some sort of REST APIs to make the searches and retrieve the response and so forth. So it was easy for them to use those backends already available and then create this application. Let's see something more complicated. I'm not sure, do you guys love cerveza, beer? How is it called here? Do you know this app? Untapped? Couple of you? Okay, so here's the point. So if you like beer, then you have to install this app, because you never know when you end up in a new country, new city, and you are not sure what is a good place to have a beer, what is the good local beer, maybe you want to ask a friend or something. So this is the app for you. It's the Facebook of the beer, right? And I love this app. My wife hates this app. Yeah, not because I'm drinking a lot, but because every time I prepare myself for a PhoneGap session, I ask my wife, okay, honey, this evening I will go out with the boys to test the app, to add some more beer. So if I have to show them, for example, what I consumed, I have to get out, right? So these are just some of the beers I enjoyed, actually, for this tour. So this is something from Oslo. I cannot pronounce it. The beer itself, I think it's actually not Norwegian. I think it's Belgian, but it was really good. And suppose you are in a new place. You can press the Discover button, and the application uses geolocation in order to see what is available in the area nearby, right? So I can see, okay, well, let's see, nearby bars. I'm not from here, so I have no idea if this is correct or not. This seems Spanish. So it seems we have lots of options after the event. What else? You can find beers. Let's see, what beers do you have people here? And you see here, it's actually was added by users like me, right? So they installed the app and they started to put content. And they vote on, so if I want to drink up, I can choose a beer, or I can search if it's not in the results. Press check in, and I can take a photo. Yeah, at this point you have to form a beer shape. And I have a picture for my beer, and I can rate the beer. I don't know. Maybe it worth 5. You are so awesome. So 5, it's the right. And confirm. And this is it. And by the way, every time I use the app, a while, it starts looking like this. After 1 beer, 2 beers, finally it's like this. No way to use it. Okay, so this was Untapped. And by the way, the app is also available on iOS. And if you open up the app on iOS, you'll see that the guys didn't went overboard in trying to create an app that mimics the exact look and feel of a native app on iOS or Android. They've done just the common sense things you would do, like having a back button right at the top left corner on iOS or iPad, Android, iPad, iPhone devices, right? But a part of this, they have the same yellow kind of scheme for colors. And I guess it was great for them because in the end, they managed to reuse much of the code between the 2 different versions. Which, talking about code, brings me to the last app I want to show you, that it's called PhoneGap API Explorer. It's an application created by my fellow evangelist, Christoph Konrad. It's an app created using PhoneGap that teaches you how to create PhoneGap apps. Isn't it awesome? So, On the left side, you can see all the built-in capabilities. And if you choose one, you can see over here, what is the code? What is the JavaScript code you have to write in order to take a picture? And you have to remember that this code, it's identical on any supported platform. So it doesn't matter you are going to take a picture on an Android device or on an iOS device. You're going to write the same code, right? So let's see. I will press the invoke button. Smile. Oh. There is someone who is not happy at all. This guy. You should come and I should have a t-shirt for you. And here you can see how the app was able to retrieve the picture, right? And you can do whatever you want to do with the picture in your app. So once again, it's a great app. It's free, by the way. You don't have to pay anything. And this was it. Questions? Nope. Okay. Yeah. How much is what? Yeah, it's free. It's free. It's completely free. You can pay us if you want. I'm sure you have some sort of foundation to help people in Africa or something, whatever. So yeah. No, 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 no. No, we have to make money, right? We love to give things for free, but we also keep something for us. And this is what my second part of my talk is all about. So in the case of PhoneGap, the PhoneGap SDK, it's free. You can do whatever you want with the SDK. You can find the source code. It used to be, I think it's still on GitHub as well. So you can get all the source code, including the native part and the JavaScript AP library of part of the PhoneGap SDK and so forth. The way we are making money, we created a service that helps you to build the native installers. And this is the last part of my PhoneGap session. It's called PhoneGap Build. And this is we can talk about this over a beer afterwards, yeah. And test the Untapped app, right? So, let's see, how do you build PhoneGap app? Anyone knows the answer? You can use everything you want, right? So, much to many people's surprise is that PhoneGap SDK, it doesn't come with a UI framework, right? It doesn't offer you anything to build the UI of your application. It's up to you to use whatever you feel comfortable with. You can use Bootstrap, for example, Bootstrap UI, which has support for mobile. You can use jQuery mobile and so forth. And I think it's great because once again, you can use whatever you feel more comfortable and you trust more. In terms of tools, again, you are going to build, at the end of the day, a mobile web application. So you'll most likely use your favorite tools, right? Could be, I don't know, an Eclipse-based IDE, could be TextMate, could be VI, Sublime, whatever. You are going to continue to use those. Most of the tests, probably, you'll be conducting on your desktop computer because it's much easier, right? Change something in the code, refresh, and you can see if it is working or not. But of course, because in the end, the app will be running on a mobile device, it is important to test it on the mobile device as often as possible. Now, the $1 million questions, right? How do you make the native installers? There are two different ways, and they are very, very, very different. The first one is by using the native toolchain, which means suppose you want to package your app for iPad. you'll have to use a MacBook. You'll have to install Xcode, which is the tool for building iOS apps, right, from Apple. In that Xcode, you are going to install a free plugin from PhoneGap that will help you to package your app. And this is the workflow. Suppose you want to build a Windows mobile installer. You'll have to use a Windows machine, Visual Studio, and a PhoneGap plugin for Visual Studio from PhoneGap. And you get the idea. For Android, you are going to use Eclipse and so forth, which is not very funny, isn't it? I mean, how many of you have installed on their machines Xcode and Visual Studio? No one. I can bet on this. Because it's impossible, actually. That's a bad joke. Apologize. The second way is by using PhoneGap Build. And this is the way we are thinking to make money out of PhoneGap. So PhoneGap Build, it's really nice. It allows you to create a zip file with all your files, send that zip file to our servers, and our servers will create the native installers for 6 different operating systems. Android, iOS, RIM, Bud, I think so, and so forth. And when it's ready, you get a QR code and you can get the application from there. Now, the good news is also it is free. So as long as you want to have only one private app, which means that app won't be available to people who don't know your user and password. So if you need only one private app, then it's free. If you need more private apps, then you'll have to pay, but it's really cheap. It's a monthly membership. I think it's around 10 euros, and you can have as many as apps you want. Also, instead of sending a zip file, you can actually provide an URL for a repository. Like maybe you are using GitHub. Anyone uses GitHub here? Few. It's free also, but they have a paid version also. So you can get a GitHub repo URL and use that to build the application. Maybe we should actually see this in action. What do you think? So this is build.phonegap.com. I already logged in, so this is my account, and I can see all the apps that I added. And this is my GitHub account, and I have here the app that I showed you earlier, the one with the plates, this one, okay? So this one, it's also hosted on GitHub. So what I can do is actually to grab the URL of this GitHub repo and go over here and say, I want a new app. I can paste it. And our servers are starting to gather the data, the bits, put them together. They are dancing around to make it nice. And at some point, I should get also the QR code. And what I can do is taking a picture of the QR code. You see here this red rectangle for iOS. It means the build couldn't actually build for iOS. Why? Because I didn't upload it, the digital certificates that I have to take from Apple in order to be able to package an iOS app. And if you go to your account, you'll see that you can add those certificates. So there are some platforms that ask you or require to upload some sort of a digital certificate. And as you know, it's iOS, Android, and BlackBerry. Once you upload it, all you have to do when you create a new app is just to choose what certificate you want to be used for that app. And you won't get the red one. But the Android one was okay? So let me switch to this one. Come on. So the app is downloading, okay, from our servers. Now I can press on, I can confirm yes, I want to replace an older version, install. It's awful, isn't it? You can't see anything. It must be the rain. Okay, open up. And this is the app, right? So how much, like 5 minutes? Less than 5 minutes, right? Of course, you spend a lot more to write the app, but this is why you are paid for. But guess what? You can also charge money for packaging the app, and you can complain to your client, oh, it took me forever to install Xcode and that, but you can use our service. Okay. So I showed you this. This is the page with the resources. I promise it to give it to you. So you'll find like documentation about getting started with PhoneGap. You'll find also some of the services like this PhoneGap build. There is also a PhoneGap emulate service that allows you to install an extension in your Chrome browser, and it will trick your PhoneGap application to believe that it's actually running on a device. So you can, for example, mimic that you have an accelerometer on your desktop and feed your application business logic with events, geolocation as well, and so forth. There is also an IRC channel where you can talk with the developers who are actually building the PhoneGap. There is also the URL for the plugins, lots and lots. There are like literally dozens and dozens and dozens of different plugins and so forth. So this was my PhoneGap. You shouldn't be happy because I have a third talk. Any questions before I close this one? Not really. Okay. As you can see, the last presentation it's really small. So let's get very, very quickly. Who knows about Adobe brackets? Couple of people. Only one, actually. 2, 3. Great. What is it? You can say it in Spanish. Be my translator, por favor. That's fair enough, and I want to thank you for this line. So, yep, this is it's awesome, actually. I should use it in my slides. So what is Brackets? Brackets is an open source project from Adobe. It's a code editor for web. We announced it in May this year, so about 4 months ago. And it's completely open source. It is hosted on GitHub. You can see what the people are working, our team, our Brackets team, it's working on that GitHub repository, and you can see all the different branches and so forth. And it is licensed under an MIT license. Do you know what it means? It means that you can literally grab the code, put a different name, I don't know, the awesome Madrid code editor, and sell it, okay? You can even sell it. You won't have any trouble with Adobe or whatever. You are entitled to do this if this is what you want. What is special about Brackets? Well, it is built using the Chromium Embedded Framework, which is a special version of the Chrome browser, and it is built using JavaScript, HTML, and CSS, right? Does it make sense? Not really, huh? Well, think about, what is your favorite editor, code editor? Whatever, say something. Sublime. What is written Sublime in? Do you know how to change Sublime if you want to add something? like a new feature or? Hmm? But if no one actually created extension, do you know how to create? Do you have the know-how? And I think it's normal, right? You know HTML, JavaScript, and CSS, right? This is what you are working with, and this is why you are paid, right? With a tool like this, like brackets, because it is written with JavaScript, HTML, and CSS, you can actually change the tool yourself. Maybe you don't like the color theme. Maybe you want to have black and white letters. Guess what? You grab the CSS file, you change whatever you want to change, and you have customized your tool. Maybe you like to do Zen coding, right? You can write using JavaScript and jQuery or whatever, a simple extension that enables you to have Zen coding in the tool. If Adobe Brackets is the open source project, Xcode, it's the distribution of this open source project. What is the difference? Well, we look at what we have at Adobe, like PhoneGap build service, Edge web fonts service, and we thought maybe it will be really useful for developers to have access to these two features from the product itself. But because these two services are from Adobe, maybe it doesn't make sense to be part of the open source project, Brackets. So we decided to go with code. Well, the good news, it's still free. We don't want to ask money. How do we make money? Because maybe you want to pay for PhoneGap build services, right? It's really important, the PhoneGap build. You can start to see the importance. So here's one of the difference between the Adobe distribution, Edge code, and Brackets. You have support for web fonts. And here at the bottom, you can see that you can link your current project with your PhoneGap build account, and you can trigger the build process from within the tool, and you'll get a nice QR code when everything is done. So, having said that, let's see the tool in action, shall we? So this is the tool. Isn't it amazing? So everything you see here, it's coded using JavaScript, HTML, and CSS. It's just amazing, really. You have to believe me. It has never been done before, at least like this. And there are some very interesting features. So as a web developer, you know that every time you have to change some CSS properties for your current project, you have to jump basically back and forth between the HTML file and the CSS file, right? Which is okay. We've been doing this for years, right? But maybe there is another way. So watch me doing something magic. I will press Command D, and do you know what is this? This is the CSS that is applied for this class. So if I open, this is all the CSS I have for this page. So you can see I have here a definition, and the tool itself, it's smart enough to parse the CSS file or the CSS files that are used by the current HTML file and show me only what is relevant for the current tag. And you can have multiple inline editors. This is how we call this, inline editor. I can open up another one here because I have also some rules for the P. And I can change the CSS code right here. I don't have to go to the style sheet itself. And because it is built with web, it can do another trick. So I will press the live view. You say, Vive la France, Monsieur Chaise. And I can do something like this. So for example, here, I can change the color of this paragraph, right? And I can preview the color. As you can see, I have like a nice overlay. And I can say, no, France, it's not rouge, it's all about, I don't know. And you can see, right? The color was changed in real time. I didn't have actually to save the file. The file isn't changed, isn't saved on the disk. So the tool itself communicates with the browser and sends via the debugging API the new info. You can see that it's not saved. I have here like a little bullet, okay? Uh, we thought about CSS and this new feature, inline editing, and you thought, okay, maybe we can help also the JavaScript developers, right? You write a bunch of JavaScript functions and objects, and sometimes you are in a method and you are not sure what the method you are about to call is supposed to do. So guess what? You can do this in JavaScript as well. So I have here a function defined, do load data. And if I go here and press Command D, I can see the definition of that function in this context. Okay? What else? Do you know, guys, do you know what linting means? Like JS lint or, okay? So it's a little tool that introspects your JavaScript code and can help you to avoid like horrible mistakes. And we integrated JS lint in our tool. So for example, it introspected the JavaScript from this file and it says like, oh, you maybe want to combine these two declarations into a single one, right? So do something like this. And you see it goes. If I do like a horrible mistake trying to define a new variable here without using the var keyword, which means I pollute the global scope, I get another correction, right? My variable was used before it was defined. So all I have to do is to put var in front of it and it will go away. And then I have the previous one. Combine your declarations, right? So you can see the value. Now, if you want to contribute to brackets, it's very easy. As I told you, you can find the code hosted on GitHub. You can also find the features that the team are planning to work on. They are public, they are hosted on a Trello, and I have to cut my throat, apparently, in 2 minutes. So yeah, wait, in 2 minutes I'll cut my throat. And there are also some starter issues. Let me see if I have the URL open. So this is the product management page for this product. And you can see these are the people who are actually working on the team. And if you want to start doing something, probably you want to pick up something that it's called starter bug or starter issue, because it's something that it's very simple. You can probably do it like in 5, 10, 20 minutes. But the team, it's so small, there are just 10 people, they are choosing to focus on the big issues, right? Because I will tell you the truth, the product is not ready to replace Vim or TextMate, not today. So they still have a lot to do. And the team every morning starts with reviewing the pull request that came from the community. So if you take your time, start adding a new feature or fixing a simple bug, and you commit a pull request, it won't be lost in a dark hole. No, the team probably within 24 hours since you send the pull request will be back to you with feedback. Okay, this is good, we are going to incorporate, or oh, you know, maybe your code is not that clean, maybe you should change this and so forth, which is still good enough, right? And every 12 days, the team releases a new version of the brackets. So every freaking 12 days, they are like a metronome. 1 more minute, huh? External contributors, you are more than welcome. There are more than 20 people around the world who joined the project. We hosted a number of hackathons. Actually, the team called them brackathons, where people like you join us with engineers from the brackets team and other people from Adobe. I was at one of them, and we just code for a day, adding new features to the product. There is an extension API that helps you to create a plugin if you want, or an extension, and that thing doesn't have to stay inside of the bracket, so you can have it somewhere else on your hard disk, and you can have as many as of them installed with brackets. In terms of what it uses, the brackets itself, the guys are using Twitter Bootstrap for the UI. They are also using less jQuery and, as you can see, require.js for managing the dependencies, and Mustache and Code Mirror. It's the editor itself. It's another open source project. But if you are going to create an extension, you are able to use whatever JavaScript framework you want to use, because that extension is self-contained, so it can use Angular, Backbone, whatever. You don't have to stick to these ones. About the future, and this is really my last slide, we feel like next year the tool will reach its maturity. It will be like version 1. It will be available for you guys for free, and it should be everything you need from a code editor for the web, right? We don't have yet in mind, I don't know, PHP editor code or whatever. We want to focus on web, which means HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. About the next year, maybe we'll have time to put brackets in other places, like maybe it should be the code editor of your WordPress blog, right? If you have to write snippets of code when you create a blog post, maybe you can put brackets inside WordPress and switch to a code editor when you do code snippets, right? So this is just an idea. This is it. This was really my last word. Now, please give me the knife. It doesn't work. Gracias.